All right, we are on air. And this is Jason Hull with the DoorGrow Show, and I'm hanging out here with Bart Sturzl.
Right.
That's how you say your name?
That's right, Sturzl. Very good.
Great. And Bart is the president of NARPM, as some people call it, or NARPM, which stands for?
The National Association of Residential Property Managers.
All right, that's a mouthful. It's
It
a
is.
really long name.
That's why we call it NARPM.
Right. Okay. So Bart, I'm really excited to have you here. DoorGrow, we've been a member of NARPM for a little while. I just actually renewed my dues, I think, yesterday.
Awesome.
And as an affiliate, which that's what vendors do, I guess. And
yes.
So I wanted to have you on, and because I know that I'd met you briefly at the NARPM Broker Owner Conference. I was hanging out there with my dad. He's just getting started. I have a brother who's got like 600 doors down in Orange County. He's not just getting started, but my dad's just getting started. So I dragged him to NARPM. I'm like, let's both go see what this is all about. And we just hung out like I was like a fly on the wall, and it was really interesting to see. And I touched base with you briefly and said, hey, I'd love to set up an interview.
Yes.
And you and Gail said, okay, great. And so here we are. And I had asked at the time, aren't most property managers members of NARPM, or how big is it? And the response was, no, there's a lot that aren't. And so that I was curious about that, because almost all of my clients are. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about first, what is NARPM?
Sure. So NARPM, like I said, is the National Association of Residential Property Managers. And what we are is we're an association nationwide, over 5,000 members. We're pushing 5,500. Our goal is 6,000 by the end of the year. And what we do is we provide designation, education, and networking opportunities for the single family or what we call scattered site managers. Apartment managers, commercial managers, they usually tend to go more towards an IREM type situation for the commercial side. But we found through NAR and through other organizations that there's not a lot of education and designation for the scattered site single family, what we call 1 to 4 homes. Single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex. And so we focus on giving our members the opportunity to get better at doing that. And so we gear all our education towards that. We have 2 main events during the year. One is the Broker Owner, which you had just mentioned that you went to in Vegas, and that's in Vegas every year in either March or April. We try to keep it in the springtime. And that focuses on how to grow your business. It's for the decision makers of companies to say, hey, here's what we can do to help you with marketing, HR, how to set up your company, whether you want to do portfolio style or departmentalized style management. And then the other big event we have during the year is our national conference, which happens in October of every year. This year it's in Hawaii. So I highly recommend that trip. That's a great write-off to go learn how to be a property manager in Hawaii. And in that, we tier that conference for the new property manager, the experienced property manager, and then the owner broker. We try to tier that into 3 different segments. Doesn't mean if you're an owner broker, you can't go to the experienced property manager courses. You absolutely could go to those workshops. But everything we do at conference is taught by members for members. So you're going to get the experience of someone who's been doing this 20 years like myself, teaching people who have been doing it in it for 6 months and helping them with what they need to get so that they can be successful in our industry.
Great. So startups, they're often concerned about costs like early on. And I've noticed a big segment of the market of property management entrepreneurs that are out there in this residential or scattered space that you mentioned have like less than 100 doors, and they kind of get stuck. Like they have a hard time even breaking like the 50 to 80 door kind of mark. That's about as many as they can handle on their own as a solopreneur. So they're concerned about costs early on. So what benefits would NARPM provide for new property managers? These are the people that I'm sure NARPM is seeking to convince to join and become members.
Sure. So the first thing we can do is we have 2 listservs where if you have a question or you have a problem or you need something, you just fire it out on the listserv, and you're going to get 5,000 people responding to you. The new property managers, in some states they get better support from their state associations. Like in Texas, we're very strongly supported by TAR, but in other states they don't have any support at all. They don't have leases, they don't have management agreements, they don't have anything. They're starting from scratch. So these property managers that are new to the industry, that are trying to grow from 50 to 100 doors, what we can do is we can offer them a lot of support. We can teach them how to better utilize their time. We can teach them how to put together a policy and procedure manual. We can teach them the tools they need to unbundle their services and get a better fee structure so that they have the resources they need from the clients they have and are making more money with less time. If they have a service animal issue and they need an addendum to their form, to their lease, instead of having to recreate that from scratch, they can go out and say, hey, has anyone had this issue? Do you have a form? They're going to get 5 or 6 different forms that anyone would share and say, hey, cut and paste and use what you want and make it yours. So that's what we can do for the new manager. We can help get their feet off the ground by supporting them. NARPM is really, really a unique organization because even though we're all competitors and we all are in the same industry and trying to get these properties, our true competitor is the do-it-yourselfer, the homeowner who wants to manage it himself. I don't consider the other property managers in our industry my competition. I actually consider them my colleagues. I don't aggressively try to take other people's managements. I don't need to do that. There's enough out there for all of us to have plenty of properties. And so we share, just openly, and there's never been a situation where someone's come to me and said, hey, I got a situation, I don't know how to handle this, or hey, I heard you're making an extra month's worth of management fees with your Christmas bonus gifts to your tenants. How are you doing that, and how are you getting the profit share on that? And it's those kind of things that can really open up some resources for the new property manager, because they haven't thought about, oh, well, how can I get that extra fee and increase my bottom line by 100% without offering any new services? So that's how we help.
I love that. So NARPM is more of a collaborative environment, and it does seem to feel that way. That was one of the best things I noticed being at the Broker Owner Conference, is how open everybody was to just help each other out, answer questions. And some of the best things that my dad got, or that I received being there, the takeaways were just the networking and connecting with other people and saying, hey, I'm having this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And the purpose of that is, if for every property manager I touch and I meet at a convention, and I can say, hey, let's sit down, and I'll be more than happy to share a secret with you. I'm not making that property manager better by himself. I'm making our industry better. And by every person I touch, I make our industry better. And the stronger our industry becomes, the more we get recognized. We're getting recognized in DC now. I spent 3 solid days in DC on talking with congressmen, senators, and I even got a meeting inside HUD with the chairman of HUD. So we're starting to be recognized nationwide, and we've tied into a lot of our state associations as well. So NARPM has really come a long way in the fact that we're starting to have a voice in legislation, but making that property manager better makes our industry better, which makes the entire community stronger.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Something I remember from my marketing education days, we were taught that if you want to build a new category, you first promote the category. And property management's relatively new. It's not something that's on the mind or lips or tongue of most normal people out there that are not familiar with the industry. They're not familiar with even what that phrase means sometimes. Whereas some of the people I've spoken with in Australia, for example, property management's very well known there.
Sure.
Very well developed. The advantage we have here in the States, though, technologically, we are far ahead of them. We have really great tools and software for property managers. But property management is a category. Property managers, if they really want to build their business right now, I would say it would benefit them to build the category of property management. And we had Steve Murray of Real Trends on our show. He was also at the Broker Owner Conference, and he had mentioned that property management, I think, currently is like a half the size in industry-wise of real estate, but it's going to be growing a lot.
It is going to be growing, and what we're seeing is a trend on that. typically the sales market runs anti-secular to the property management industry. When sales are strong, management's weak. When management's strong, sales are weak. And so what we see is we see a lot of fluctuation from agents moving back and forth in and out of the industry. But when you get to the professional managers like myself and the other people who are in NARPM, this is what we do. We don't fluctuate in and out. I mean, we're at this every day, growing our industry, growing our portfolios. I think property management in the last 20 years has really taken off due to the fact in the last decade of the technology that's soared into our industry. We have apps available just for us. We have software and accounting programs now available just for property management. And it's made the REO and the foreclosure industry a few years ago has really made a big impact because these REOs needed someone to manage their properties. And so they started coming to property managers with bundles of properties. We're talking 400 or 500 units at once. And that's a lot for a company to undertake if they have no experience in property management. As we see this transitioning, we saw big companies come into play now. And we're seeing a lot of franchises and big companies come across the country, and what I call those the big box of property management, almost like the Home Depots or the Walmarts coming into our industry now. Our industry started out with the ma and pa who did sales and couldn't sell properties for their clients, and so what they said, well, we'll just manage this for you until the market gets better. And from that, property management has transitioned into a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I see that to continue into the future. I'm not saying that every property manager will become a big box. I certainly won't. I will maintain a boutique manager because in a local market, I can out-resource those big boxes every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So there's always going to be a place for the individual property manager who's professional in his industry in those local markets.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely true because if property management is anything like the real estate industry, franchises have made just a small percentage of headway into the market share. And they've been around forever. And property management franchises have been around, some of them, the initial ones, for 20 years now. I think Steve Murray pointed out, and they've made very, very little progress into siphoning away market share. So,
but look at their target market. If you have an investor, let's take an example, a California investor who buys 9 properties across the country. That's a perfect target for those franchises because they can have the same franchise manage every single one of their homes in 9 different states. They get the same counting software. They get the same setup across the board, and that's great for them. But the majority of investors are not those investors. They're your reluctant landlords, people who had to be transferred for a job and couldn't sell their home because they've only owned it for 6 months, so they have to lease it until they can get in a better position. It's the ma and pa's of this country who say, look, I'm worried about the stock market. I'm 55. I need to put my money into an asset that's not going to depreciate on me 50% over 1 month if the market crashes. So they're moving into real estate. The small investor is where the majority of our business is still in this industry, and so that's why I think we'll be able to compete with the big box and the franchises all day long.
Okay, great. So how does NARPM feel about the small mom and pop versus the big box?
We love them both. There's room for both of us in this, and we can learn from each other. And actually, as president this year, one of the things that I focused on and our board focused on at this broker owner was how can we incorporate the big companies into this program, because we offer a lot of stuff for the new property manager. It's like a fire hose. We open up a fire hose on these new managers and we flood them with information to help them. But once you get past 10, 15 years, or myself who's been in the industry for 20 years, what can we still offer those experienced managers where I call it that aha moment where they come and they go, I learned one thing and that was worth me coming back next year. And so we focused on that, and we talked to Steve Murray and we talked to Stephen Hart from RPM, and we said, look, what could we do to interest you as a franchisee or a big company to say, this is something I can take across the board to all my franchises. And so we worked on that. I mean, we embraced that. We're not scared of the big box. They're going to be out here with us every day of the week. One of my best friends, Brian Birdie, he's going to be incoming president of NARPM in 2 years. Brian is the vice president of RPM. And so we're not concerned about this. This is going to be embraced. It's going to be here. It's not going away, and we're going to figure out a way to work with both the big and the small.
Is Brian Birdie associated with PMI,
PMI, I'm sorry.
Property Management
Did I
Inc.?
say RMP? I'm sorry. Yes, he's with Property Management Incorporated, PMI, out of Utah. So
Okay.
Stephen Hart's company.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So could you explain a little bit about these credentials or designations, these letters that I'm seeing at the end of property managers' names, since some
Sure.
people are not familiar with that, and you've got a few.
Sure. Yeah. I not just within NARPM either. I did a class on this several years ago called "Why Be a Professional," and I hold currently 15 designations. I don't put all of those behind my name because I'd have to go to the back of my business card. I pride myself in trying to educate myself in my industry as much as I can. So in NARPM, we have several class of designations. The first designation you can get is the RMP, the Residential Management Professional. And what NARPM prides itself on is our designations are not just a classwork designation. I have an ePro designation, and I have some other designations where you take a test, you get the designation. It doesn't mean you can do anything. It just means you can pass that one class.
Right.
Our designations are based on classwork, but also experience. So an RPM has guaranteed that they've been in the industry at least 2 years, managing a portfolio averaging 50 properties per year. And then they've done some other services and elective points where they've served on a local board, written some articles, stuff like that. The next step up from the RMP is the MPM, the Master Property Manager. And that requires 150, I believe, maybe it's 250 unit years of managing over the course of 5 years. So again, more experience, more classes. After you get your MPM, then your company can be certified as a CRMC, which is a Certified Residential Management Company, which basically says it's got an MPM on board, and the company has its policies and procedures in check. It's got its accounting spot on. Everything is perfect with that company. We come in and audit the company from top to bottom to make sure they're running the company the way a company should be run. We also have several certifications. If you're not a professional property manager, but maybe your support staff, maybe you're a bookkeeper. We have a certified bookkeeping certification. We have a certified support staff certification. We have a certified maintenance coordinator certification. So if you work within a property management company, but you're not the actual property manager, we have certifications that can help you as well, which in turn helps the company owner by educating all their employees.
That's fantastic. It reminds me of the belt system in martial arts. You get these different colored belts. The challenge is if you're not, you don't know what the different colored belts mean. And so,
yeah. And that's true for the general public. I can tell you, if someone in the general public were to pull my card and look at my card and see the alphabet soup out of my card, they're not going to know what that means. And I tell people that all the time. People say, why should I get a designation? No one's going to know what it means. You're right. They're not. But what they are going to know what it means is you've taken the time to do something to get those letters. Those letters mean something, which means you care enough about your industry and you care enough to be a professional in your industry that you've gone above and beyond the people without the letters behind their names. Whether they understand the letters or not, they know it means that you are a step above, and that's all that matters.
You know, one of the things that helps conversions on websites are trust symbols. And so I often recommend that clients subscribe to NARPM, become members of NARPM to get the NARPM logo that they can put on their website because it increases conversions on their website. It would be really cool if you had symbols, I don't know if you do, for each of these designations that they could put then on their website, because I think then they would start to mean something.
Well, we basically we do have symbols for them. We have little, like I'm wearing a NARPM lapel pin. We have MPM lapel pins, RMP lapel pins.
Oh, cool.
We have symbols for those. Typically on our websites, though, we list the NARPM logo, and then in our bio sections or something behind our name, we list our designations.
Mm-hmm.
We could put the logos up there, and then maybe even have a link that goes back to NARPM that says this is what this means. That's probably a pretty good idea.
So, no, I love it. As the property management industry grows and as the public becomes more aware of property management as a category, these designations will start to hold weight. People will be looking, and they may not know it, but when people research and when they're looking at a property management company and they read the bios or the about page or whatever, and they're seeing these designations and mentioning, you know, a little bit about these things, they're going to go look at the other guys and say, well, they don't have these, whatever they are, these
right,
designations.
exactly.
This guy sounds really legit. I should trust this guy with my biggest investment ever, my
Correct.
property.
That's correct. And like I said, they may not know what they mean. And a savvy person may go and actually look them up. I mean, if you went to the Google and you typed in NPM, it's a registered trademark. It's going to come up. I mean, you're going to find that on a Google search. It's going to take you to NARPM.
Nice.
But even if they don't know what it means, the fact that most people will recognize is, some people may not even understand what PhD means. But if you see a guy's name with PhD behind it, you immediately know, oh, that's a doctor. It means he went to school longer, or he educated himself better. People understand letters behind a name means you have taken the time to educate yourself in your industry. And I think that holds golds of weight when you're talking to somebody based on someone who doesn't hold any designations at all.
I'll have to see if I can get some letters to put after my name someday.
There you go. There you go.
Great. That's fascinating. So, so I also wanted to ask you, what insights have you noticed, or were you surprised to learn as president? You've been president for a little while now, and being president of NARPM, that probably gives you a different or a unique perspective of the property management industry, or of all the companies that are a part of NARPM as a whole.
It does. I've served on the board now for 5 years. I'm president this year, and then next year I'll switch over to past president as Steve Schultz moves in from Tucson, Arizona. One of the things that fascinates me is the back end work that you don't see as a member or as just a property manager in the association. There is a lot of work that goes into running this association. We have 5 major committees: communication, finance, professional development, membership, and then there's designations and stuff like that, convention committees. There's a lot of working parts that goes on behind the scenes that until you move up on the board, you don't have access to those or see those. And so it's the people. As president of the association, one of the things that fascinates me is how many people really do invest their time to give back to this organization and to this industry. That's been one of the eye openers for me as a president, to see all the moving wheels and see all the people that serve on all these committees and actually take the time to do stuff to make things better. Not just at the national level. We have chapters in cities across the country, and we have state chapters, and all those take manpower to run and to bring benefit and ROI to the members at the local level. So that's some of the things that's just amazed me. One of the things I try to do when I travel as well is I try to visit property manager offices in the city that I'm in. I like to visit people. One of my favorite people to visit is Betty Fletcher. She's in Little Rock, Arkansas. And Betty runs a medium-sized ma and pa property management company. She's about 350 doors. It's her and her husband. But the systems that they have in place, I can just look around their office and say, yeah, she got that from NARPM, or yeah, I can see that vendor here, or wow, she's got 3 affiliates over here with their product running different things over here. And so it really amazes me that the people who are in NARPM are actually utilizing the affiliates and the vendors and all the stuff that NARPM offers to make themselves better. It really hits home when you visit an office and go, wow, look at all the stuff they've learned while they've been in NARPM.
Yeah. So it's one of your insights is the volunteerism. It's quite surprising just seeing everybody volunteer. And then also your example, Betty, seeing that NARPM's really having a direct impact on people's businesses.
It is. Absolutely. Yep.
Great. So what's the best part of being king of NARPM?
Well, I'm a very humble person. I don't consider myself to be king of NARPM. I have a tremendous board. I have probably one of the best teams I've ever worked with at my side. It's a humbling experience to know that the members of this association look to me as for guidance and say, hey, yeah, this is the person we want to lead our organization for the next year. I told a good friend of mine, Ray Scarbozio from San Francisco, I said, look, if I leave it just a tad bit better than I found it, I've done my job. I'm not trying to move mountains here. One of the books, I'm a former Marine. One of the books I gave to my board this year to read before we started our tenure was a book by Captain Marquis called Turn the Ship Around. And basically it describes leader type leadership. Instead of me dictating, hey, I want you to do this, and I'm going to micromanage you to death until you do it. Basically, I'm going to say, this is the outcome I'm looking for. Go get it done. And I empower them to be the leaders they need to be, to finish the product and bring me back the results. I'm not going to sit there and tell them how I want them to do it. And it's a fascinating book. And what's really been interesting about that this year is it's really flourished. It's flourished all the way down into the committees, where the committees are taking the committee chairs are taking leadership of their committee and saying, this is the task the board has given us from strategic planning, and this is what we need to do to get it done. And we're empowered to do that as long as we stay inside our budget. And things are getting done at rapid paces. We're creating more online courses this year than we ever have. Our courses have been booked out and full at every event that they've been offered at. Michael McCurry and Lynn Sadlak in professional development and the staff at OMG Daily Fly, they've done a tremendous job with education this year, because that was one of my pushes, is I wanted better education for our members so that our members had better return on investment. So it's been a humbling experience this year, but it's been a lot of fun being able to lead this association.
So about the education, what sort of things are you educating property managers on?
Well, we educate property managers on everything from risk management, owner relations, tenant relations, habitability issues, fair housing, HUD, lead-based paint disclosures, contracts, ethics. We educate them from top to bottom. We have classes on all those subjects.
So is NARPM the best place to go to learn property management?
It's the best place to go if you are a scattered manager or a single family manager. You're not going to find this education anywhere else. Most real estate courses, or most real estate even exams, like I'll take the state of Texas, for example, because that's where I'm from. There's maybe 1 or 2 questions in the exam that have to do with property management. Texas is unique that we do have a property management course, and we also have a broker responsibility course, because one of the biggest suits in Texas has been property management claims. And so we have a broker responsibility course to teach brokers that if your agents are doing property management, you are ultimately liable for what they do. So we're trying to stress that. But if you want hands down, where the rubber meets the road education on property management, NARPM is the place to get it.
Fantastic. So yeah, there seems to be an opportunity there. I heard the other day from, I did an event with a gal from Atlanta, and it was fantastic. And she talked about how she's involved with the Board of Realtors there, and the complaint has to do with leasing. It has to do with things surrounding leases, handling trust accounts, stuff like that. That's real estate. And NARPM fills this gap, which is interesting. It seems like there's an opportunity for property managers to get more involved, especially if they're educated well by NARPM.
That's correct, and that's our ultimate goal. When we go to these state associations and say, look, your number one charge on your recovery fund is from commingling of funds or embezzlement from property managers. We can help reduce the amount of your recovery fund deficits every year if you will join with us and give us a property management committee and let us educate property managers at your state level. And most of the states have welcomed us with open arms. There's a few states here and there, Idaho, for example, the out west state that doesn't require a license to do property management. You can just hang your shingle and start a business out there. But most states require licensing now to be a property manager, because they've seen the writing on the wall. They see that you're handling billions of dollars of assets for other people, and the amount of charges and recovery fund deficits that occur from those fraudulent activities is overwhelming. And so they're now looking to us at NARPM to say, hey, what kind of courses are you offering? What kind of courses do you have? Can we offer these? And if we do, we'll give our members continued education credit within the state if they'll take them. So that's been a huge bonus for us in the last 5 years.
Fantastic. Well, Bart, how does somebody find out about NARPM? How do they learn about it? How do they join?
Sure. So what you can do is you can go to narpm.org, NARPM.org, and that'll take you to our website. You can join right on our website. There's a lot of about us information on that website. A lot of cities, if you're from a major metropolitan city, a lot of cities have local chapters. What you can do is you can find a chapter right there on our homepage. And if your city does have a chapter, you can go to a chapter meeting. They'll welcome you at the chapter meeting. People will talk to you and tell you about NARPM. Our number one marketing tool is still member to member. Most people who join NARPM because they said they heard about it from another agent or from another property manager. We try real hard to get the information out. We're at NAR every year. I've been at NAR for the last 3 years, working a booth in the trade show, trying to get the word out of who we are. We're here. We can help you. But the key thing is just go to our homepage, narpm.org, and you can find all the information you need, and you can join right there. And as soon as you join, you get a welcome letter. You get a free ethics class right off the bat. You can sign up for the listservs and start asking questions of property managers. You get discounts on all our education and our conventions.
Fantastic. Bart, I appreciate you taking the time out. Anybody watching this, make sure that you, or listening later, make sure that you go to NARPM, check them out. If you're a property manager that's not a member of NARPM, I highly recommend that you do it. I recommend you get the trust symbol. I recommend you put that on your website. It makes you look more credible and legit. And go to the events. A lot of property managers starting out feel like they can't afford the time to go to the events, but that's probably one of the biggest mistakes they can make, I think, starting out. They get so much insight, so much info. My dad walked away with lots of takeaways. And I think it's very beneficial to connect and rub shoulders with other people and not feel like you're alone, because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs starting out in property management, it can be a pretty taxing business. And especially if you feel isolated and like you're in it all by yourself. And you're not, you've got NARPM to help you along the way.
That's right. And if you go to an event and you don't get a tip or something that helps you, come find me. I'll give you a tip that'll pay for your next 3 conventions. I guarantee it.
Fantastic. Maybe we'll have to have you on to talk about that.
All right.
Hey, Bart, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming out.
You bet, Jason. Thanks for the time.
All right. So if you are tuning into our shows, this is Jason with DoorGrow. This is the DoorGrow Show. You can check us out at doorgrow.com and make sure to join the DoorGrow Club. It's doorgrowclub.com, which is a free place for property managers to hang out. It's kind of a social media site, and the engagement's been fantastic. And that is all. We'll see you later, Bart.